Lots of things are heating up for the Detroit Red Wings. We actually have ourselves some rumors in regards to Wings trade targets, and this name is actually pretty good. You can already see it on the screen right here. It was in the title, it was in the thumbnail. 3 landing spots for Pittsburgh Penguins forward Rickard Rakell. Before we dive into this, though, I wanted to go over the actual Detroit Red Wings news of the day, because earlier this morning, the Red Wings made a really interesting ad. They've hired Michael Leighton as goaltending coach. Welcome to Hockeytown, Michael Leighton, goalie coach. And I will say this right here. I generally am too unaware when it comes to goalie coaches and other staff-related things. Primarily for me, a lot of the knowledge I have about these hires comes from their former bodies of work. And for Michael Leighton, luckily for us, there actually is a really big body of work that he has had at the NHL and AHL levels. I also like how the bit.ly shortened link is straight up just bit.ly Leighton hired, which is a really nice personal touch there. But before even diving into Michael Leighton's hiring article from Twitter, I just wanted to dive into this particular part of his profile. 44 years old, 6'3", 185, a former 6th-round pick by Chicago in the 1999 NHL Draft. You can see that Michael Leighton had a very decorated National Hockey League and American Hockey League career. There were some seasons where he had played more NHL games than others, and more seasons where he played more AHL games than others. But this was a guy who, at his best, was a National Hockey League goalie, posting up a, what was his career high in save percentage in an NHL year? The 2009-2010 season. That little run with the Philadelphia Flyers was so good for Leighton, a .916 save percentage in 14 games in the playoffs as the Flyers went to the finals to lose to Chicago that year. He also had a .918 in the regular season. The Philadelphia Flyers saw some really good goaltending out of Michael Leighton, and the guy had some really diversified experiences between all of these teams. I mean, just look at the last 4 years of play for Michael Leighton's professional career. Chicago Blackhawks, Rockford IceHogs, Carolina Hurricanes, Charlotte Checkers, Syracuse Crunch, Chicago Wolves, Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, Ontario Reign, Utica Comets. This guy played on 9 teams in his last 4 professional years played. I mean, talk about not being able to hold on to a job for longer than half a season, but still, Michael Leighton was a very interesting, flexible piece, and that is exactly what the article goes out there and talks about. 2025 AHL Hall of Fame inductee, spent part of 3 seasons as goaltending coach with the OHL's Windsor Spitfires. Detroit Red Wings executive vice president and GM Stevie Y announced that the team has hired Leighton as the goaltending coach for the Red Wings. Leighton, 44, joins the organization after spending parts of 3 seasons as goaltending coach of the OHL's Windsor Spitfires from 2021 to 2024. During his tenure with the Spitfires, Leighton helped the team win back-to-back Western Conference regular season titles in 21-22 and 22-23. The Spitfires also clinched a berth in the 2022 OHL Championship Series, falling to the Hamilton Bulldogs in 7 games. Leighton began his coaching career after playing 18 seasons of pro hockey from 2001 to 2019. Now, this is a long summary of Michael Leighton's NHL and AHL career, but I think the bottom part here puts himself in the AHL Hall of Fame. He played in 5 AHL All-Star Classics and was named the recipient of the 2007-2008 Aldridge Baz Bastian Memorial Award as the league's most outstanding goaltender. This guy ended up setting a record, I believe. Where is that shutout record over here? Something saves. Here it is. He holds the AHL record for most saves in a single game, stopping 98 out of 101 shots in a 5-overtime contest with Albany on April 24, 2008 versus Philadelphia. So yeah, he had a 98 save game in the American Hockey League. That doesn't really mean anything as to how good he is as a coach, but I still thought it was interesting trivia to toss in there. Lo and behold, Michael Leighton is a really interesting name, and I just wonder how this is going to fare for some of the goaltenders the Wings already have in their system, between Postava and Kosa to John Gibson and Cam Talbot. Lots of diversity, lots of goaltenders to work with here for Michael Leighton. But let's dive into a different piece of Red Wings discussion, because with one addition in Leighton comes the potential of more additions, this time via trade. As we had alluded to at the beginning of the video, we had ourselves an article on Pittsburgh Hockey Now by Dan Kaniewski talking about 3 landing spots for Penguins forward Ricard Rakell. Let's dive into it here. With the current influx of top 6 wingers in Pittsburgh, Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen, and the admittedly sky-high price on Brian Rust, Ricard Raquel has not yet taken center stage as the premier available scorer, but he is a solid secondary option to high-profile names such as Robertson and Kyrou. Moving Raquel would also seem to be necessary for future renewal, though Kyle Dubas has thus far held a firm line against selling for less than deemed value. The market appeared to open last week as GMs have begun to assess and admit their team's needs. However, some potential trade partners appear to be out of contention as they already address top 6 winger needs, including the Mammoth, the Wild, the Hurricanes, and the Islanders. The market may be open, but it's also shrunk. 3 landing spots for Ricard Rakell. Dan Kaniewski labels the Red Wings as one of them, saying it seems too perfect. A team with a heritage of successful European players is acquiring one of the most talented Swedish wingers. Beyond the ties of culture, Detroit is a few moments away from angst and anger. Captain Dylan Larkin was a little bit tense in his public exit interviews, and it's been 6 years under the Yzer plan without a playoff appearance. Detroit GM Steve Yzerman was frank regarding his team's needs, an impact top 6 forward and a top 4 D-man. We'll continue to see if we can do something through trade, and once the initial July 1 free agency subsides with the rush there, and we'll see what teams are looking to do after that, Yzerman said just before the draft. Detroit's competition for one of the 8 Eastern Conference playoff spots has not gotten worse, so the responsibility is on GM Stevie Y to improve his Detroit roster. As the roster currently stands, 37-year-old James Van Riemsdyk or 24-year-old Elmer Soderblom will be a top 6 left wing. Really? Is that how it's going to go down? Okay, yeah, I guess if you were to funnel everything upwards, you put DeBrincat on the first line with Larkin and Raymond, which is not going to happen, but yeah, okay, somebody is going to have to fill in that spot. Ricard Rakell would make a perfect complement to either Larkin or sophomore center Marco Kasper. Perhaps no other team has more urgency or even necessity to get a deal done. Now, Ricard Rakell, if you played this guy with Larkin and Raymond on the top line, I do think there would be a lot of damage to be had. Ricard Rakell was one of the more versatile Pittsburgh Penguins scorers this previous year, alongside of Brian Rust and Sidney Crosby. Rakell was a stud this year, 70 points in 81 games played. That is literally a career high. I mean, he had a season like this on a Penguins team that was this bad. There's probably some good value to go on with this player heading into next season and beyond, and he's cost-controlled too. 2028 is his contract expiration date, making $5 million a year. $5 million a year for a 70-point guy? Pretty good, I would say. And so if he is on the trade block, if he is an available option, I actually agree with Kaniewski here. The Red Wings would be a prime trade candidate for a guy like Ricard Rakell. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel, firstly, about the Detroit Red Wings hiring Michael Leighton as their new goalie coach? How do you feel about Ricard Rakell as a potential trade target? And is he really the perfect fit for the Detroit Red Wings in their top 6 as a winger, center? He can play all 3 forward positions. You could toss him anywhere, and he will produce. Is he needed in Detroit? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.